Industrial complex is in every district. So going back to your thing about the subs, you have a liberal Democratic congressman that represents the district where the subs are made. Lieberman is the senator, one of the senators from Connecticut. They have pushed through the sub program because it's made in Virginia and it's made in Connecticut. And we don't need new generation of subs. It's absurd. And yes, it's going to total $75 billion. As I said before, what? To fight Al-Qaeda doesn't have a rowboat. They don't have a Navy. They're landlocked. Why do you need subs? And so anyone who examines this budget will know it's ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous. We don't have an enemy. And yet we are, as I said before, spending more than the entire world combined.
You dedicate the book to President Eisenhower and Senator McGovern.
Yes, to two war heroes. Everybody forgets that about McGovern. When he ran against Nixon, you know, pacifist. McGovern's the guy who won the Distinguished Flying Cross. You know, he did, I think, 34 very dangerous bombing runs over Germany. And once I asked McGovern, I asked him, how come you didn't bring up your war record when Nixon was smearing you? And he said it would have been unseemly. I mean, McGovern was is a great person, and Eisenhower is a great person. Here are two war heroes who warned us about the danger of a permanent military. And what we had after World War II is the development of a permanent military economy in the United States. And people are frightened to death to let go of it. Labor union people, Democrats and Republicans. Wait a minute, you know, you won't have the money for the schools. No, no one's going to actually do the right thing with this money. Let's at least keep the military jobs. And that's where we are right now. And I want to say about this election, this is the issue, the third rail issue that these candidates will not address. I don't care, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, John McCain, they all want to increase the defense budget. They all three want a bigger, more robust army. What? To do another Iraq? To invade Iran? To invent a new boogeyman enemy out there like China or somewhere? And they will not be able to have a progressive domestic agenda if they spend this money, continue to spend this money on the military. The money does not exist. Just servicing the debt on these unneeded weapons that we've been building up takes the money away from anything you want to do for schools, for medicine, for scientific research. It's the big lie in American politics right now is that you can have a progressive domestic agenda and be a hawk on defense spending. You can't.
What is a liberal hawk?
A liberal hawk, by the way, are the people who, you know, unfortunately, quite prominent about Hillary Clinton. They're also a bit about Barack Obama. They're the ones who cheered us into Iraq. It's not just the neoconservatives. You know, it was the Pollocks and the Index and a lot of these people who justified going in. And you know what it is? It's the oldest argument in American history. You either have a republic in which people have control, or you have the empire. And what Jefferson and Washington up through Eisenhower and McGovern warned us against is the empire. If you have an empire, the people cannot have the basic information. They will be lied to. They will be deceived. You know, that's what the weapons of mass destruction and everything. And the reason that Washington in his farewell address, that Eisenhower in his farewell address warned us about empire is they knew it was incompatible with democracy. Yes, if we're on a local level, I've written local columns. If I say you should have a traffic light there or close that school there or the police are corrupt, people can get the information. They know what you're talking about when it's kept local. When you have an empire, you don't get that information for what, 20, 30, 40 years, if ever. They can lie to you with impunity. People have no basis of challenging them. So what we're really talking about is if we are wedded to an imperial model, if we are wedded to a permanent war economy, to permanent expansion, you can forget democracy.
Robert Scheer, for so many years, decades, you were a columnist for the Los Angeles Times.
Yeah.
Now you're the editor of the website truthdig.com. In full disclosure, my column is also published there. Los Angeles Times, you say you were fired for ideological reasons for your politics. Talk about media consolidation and specifically your situation.
Yeah, but let me, in interest of full disclosure, I have a piece this Sunday in the current section of the Los Angeles Times. So the people who fired me are now gone. One of the vagaries of corporate America, you know, so they're all now bums and they're out, and the top guys. And so I am appearing this Sunday in the Los Angeles Times, and so I'm giving them a second chance. But, you know, I think the issue there was the Chicago Tribune and bought the old Chandler Los Angeles Times paper. I personally think there were some real contradictions with the law. You know, what can you own or not own? And they got these waivers. We had this horrible piece of legislation that came from the Clinton administration, not the only one, by the way, but the Telecommunications Act, which permitted consolidation. But even that did not permit the kind of ownership that the Tribune Company wanted to have, big television station, newspaper, in the same market. And my own thought is, I have no evidence for this, but the best way I could make sense of it is that they were under pressure from the Bush administration, you know, to back off a bit. I don't know. I've been told this by individuals, but I don't want to get too conspiratorial. The main thing is, what I love about this show and why I do Truth Dig is someone once said, you know, I think it was Liebling, he said, freedom of the press is guaranteed only to those who own one. Okay, when I realized after, I was with the LA Times for almost 30 years. I was a reporter and a columnist, contributing editor. I realized, you know, I better get myself an internet site. That's what Truth Dig is. So now no one can tell me what we printed. You know, you had a guest on now talking about torture. I caught him on the way out. We're going to feature that whole program. And that's why we run your column, and that's what Democracy Now! Is. You have to own your own media, and that's the lesson I've taken from my adventure in corporate journalism.
Finally, you talk about the humbling of Pax Americana and empire versus republic. You decide. Do you think the people of this country decide?
I think the people, you know, if we have the time to come to the end, the people come to the right conclusion. The problem is if we stumble into wars, then we can't get out. They go on for 20 years. Millions of people get killed. There's great tragedy. But basically, common sense will dictate in the end. And I think people in this country recognize now, as I say, you just have to go get gas and fill up your car, and you realize imperialism doesn't pay. You know, here in California, I'm paying, what, $4.40 for gas, and we have seized the second biggest pool of oil in the world, and we're now paying, you know, the price of oil has gone up 6-fold since George Bush has been president, and you want to tell me imperialism pays? So I think the failure of the neoconservatives really is the failure of the imperial model. The Germans learned that, the French learned it, the English, everybody in the world knows old-fashioned imperialism does not pay for the average person. It pays for Halliburton, it pays for, you know, Exxon, but it doesn't pay for the taxpayer.
Robert Scheer, I want to thank you very much for being with us. His book is The Pornography of Power, How Defense Hawks Hijacked 9/11 and Weakened America. It's coming out next week. He'll be in New York. Today we're in Los Angeles. Tonight I'll be in Grass Valley, and among other things, we'll be celebrating the life of the great Utah Phillips, who died this past week at the age of 73. Tomorrow night I'll be at UC Davis interviewing the ex-Guantanamo prisoners in Sudan. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks to Dennis Moynihan and the whole crew at Democracy Now! Thanks for joining us.